In this video, I'm going to share a step-by-step process about how you can buy your first investment property. And I'm very familiar with this area because I've helped investors buy over 60 houses over the course of my real estate career. But before we get started, to never miss a video about real estate related topics, subscribe to this channel right now and hit the bell to be notified when I post new videos. And I post a new video every Tuesday and Thursday. All right, let's go ahead and dive into the video. Step one is to save for a down payment. And the down payment for an investment property is quite a bit more than if you were saving for a house that you're actually going to be living in. For a house you're actually going to be living in, you can get a FHA loan for 3.5% down and buy a house that way. However, you can get the best interest rate for an investment property if you put down at least 20 to 25% down. So on a $300,000 house, your down payments can be about $60,000 to $75,000. So obviously if you have $3,000 in your bank account today, you're obviously not going to be able to buy an investment property tomorrow. However, you can take certain steps in order to get closer to buying your investment property, and that all starts with saving your money for a down payment and closing costs, maintaining a stream of income that's steady, and then also maintaining or increasing your FICO score to at least 740. Step number two is to qualify for a loan. In order to get the best interest rate, you want to get your FICO score above 740. Anything lower than that, the lenders are going to view you as a risk and are going to charge you a higher interest rate. In order to have a 740 or higher FICO score, there can't be anything in collections. There can't be any foreclosures or bankruptcies within the last 10 years, and you want to have little or none late payments. And if you don't have a 740 or higher credit score, don't fret. I actually made a couple of videos about how to increase your credit score, and I'll leave a link in the description below. And by the way, just so you know, lenders are going to want to look at the last 2 years of your tax returns, the last 2 months of your bank statements, your W-2s, and they're also going to want to verify your income at a minimum. Step number three is to talk to a loan officer before you start looking at houses. And I highly recommend doing this, because if you don't do this, you're going to be looking at houses. Maybe you'll find a great investment property and you fall in love with it. You would have dreams of how much money you're going to make off this property. You go back to your loan officer and find out they actually don't qualify for that property. And you're going to be heartbroken, and you're going to compare that house to every other house you view in the future. So you're not going to have a good time. I highly recommend you get pre-qualified before you start looking at houses, so you can see how much you actually qualify for and then base your search on that. This way too, if you find a great investment property after you already have your pre-approval letter in hand, if you find a great property, you can jump on it and make an offer with your agent right away. It's worth mentioning too, if you find a great investment property that is going to have positive cash flow, chances are there's going to be other investors who also are going to be placing offers on that property. So you want to have your pre-approval letter in hand and see the property as soon as you can with your realtor and place an offer. After you get pre-approved for a loan with your lender, then step number 4 is going to be actually looking at houses with your real estate agent. And my pro tip here for you is to look for investment properties. If this is your first time buying an investment property, look for properties that are within a 30-mile radius of where you live. And this is because you know the area very well if you live there. You know where the high crime areas are. You know where the desirable areas are in your area. If you're going to look for a property that's out of state, it's going to be completely foreign to yourself. If you have any issues with the property, you want to be really close by as well. And my advice when you're looking for an investment property, don't look for a property that's super high end or super low end. You want an average house that's going to appeal to the masses. Also, you don't want a property that's on a very large lot where you have to pay for a landscape service in order to maintain such a large lot size. On top of that, I would stay away from condos. That's because of the HOA that eats into your returns. Also, HOAs and condos tend to have a limitation on the number of investors that can be in that area. So a lot of the condos limit the number of investors to less than 50% of the owners of the development. So I would recommend to stick to single family houses, 1 to 4 units. If you're looking for an investment property that's over 4 units, you're going to have a commercial financing, which is a lot harder to qualify for. The down payment's actually a lot more as well. So stick to properties that are 1 to 4 units is my recommendation. Step number 5 is to search for properties that actually have positive cash flow. So go figure, right? You're looking for investment property, you actually want to make some money. So obviously you want to make some money. You're not going to want to find a property that you're going to be losing money every month. That doesn't make for a very good investment. So you want to look for properties where your rental income is going to be higher than your expenses, obviously. And what you probably will find out is that most of the properties out there are going to be a negative cash flow. So just be patient. Look for those deals out there for you where you're going to have some positive cash flow. So you're probably wondering, how can I find something that's actually positive cash flow and how do those numbers work? And the first step is to actually go and figure out what your expenses are going to be. So let's just say you get pre-approved for a $300,000 house. So go on to mortgagecalculator.org and plug in $300,000 for your purchase price. So if you go to that website, and for this example, just plug in $300,000 with a 25% down payment and a 5% interest rate. And the interest rate right now for an investment property is around 5% right now. So just check with your local lender about what your interest rate is today, because those rates can change daily. All right, so a $300,000 house, expect to pay, at least in California, around 1.25% in property taxes. Of course, it varies by the area and the house, but just expect to pay around 1.25% to be conservative. So on a $300,000 property, that's going to be $3,750 per year in property taxes. On top of that, insurance is going to be around $100 per month, so about $1,200 per year for your home insurance. But again, check with your local insurance agent for your area. And running the calculation there, that's going to be $1,620 for your mortgage payment, which would be your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And obviously, if the home is with an HOA or has a swimming pool, you're going to have to bake those costs into that calculation as well. In this example, let's assume that there's no HOA and there's no swimming pool. However, let's expect to pay around $80 per month for your yard maintenance, about $100 per month for vacancies in case you ever have any time where you have any vacancies in the property. And then on top of that, about $100 per month for your utilities, which would be water, sewer, and garbage, because typically the tenant pays for gas and electricity. It just depends on your area. Therefore, in this example, for a $300,000 house, your expenses are going to be around $1,900 per month. You obviously want to have positive cash flow. So if your monthly expenses on a $300,000 house in this example is going to be $1,900 per month, then you want to have a rental income of at least $2,000 or more in rental income. So the next step here is that even though you qualify for a $300,000 house, it doesn't mean you should be searching for a house that's $300,000. So I would look, if I was looking for investment property and I was qualified for $300,000, I would look for a property that's about $320,000 to $330,000 or less. You want to look at properties that have been on the market for a long time and are due for a price reduction. So if there's a listing out there that's $320,000, it's been on the market for a couple of months with no price reductions, then it may be a great opportunity for you to place an offer at $300,000 or less, because they're going to be looking at doing a price reduction anyway. And the absolute worst thing to do is just to wait and just hope that the seller reduces their price. And this is absolutely the worst strategy ever, because you want to get your offer in before the seller decreases their asking price. If they decrease their asking price, more than likely there's going to be other buyers on the fence who are also looking to get a great deal on that house. And then you're going to be in a bidding war. Whereas you could have placed an offer before they lower the asking price, and you have a better opportunity to get a great deal. However, this does not mean you should be placing lowball offers on new listings that just hit the market. So if a new listing hit the market at $330,000, you're only qualified for $300,000. Don't waste your time. Wait until it's been on the market for a while so you can pounce before they do a price reduction if it was priced too high. Once you've found some properties that you're interested in potentially purchasing, now is the time to compare your estimated expenses to your estimated rent that you're actually going to be able to receive. And here's a pro tip. I go on to Zillow.com, HotPads, or even Redfin or Craigslist, and go in there and try to find some rent comps. So if the house that you're thinking about buying is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, about 1,500 square feet, then go into look for houses that are 3-bedroom, 2-bath, or maybe 4-bedroom, 2-bath, and then as close to the 1,500 square feet as you can. I would say within plus or minus 300 square feet. And if you see any properties that are actively listed for rent in the area that are close to the house that you're thinking about buying, then you can make a estimate that you're approximately going to get about the same amount of rent that the landlords are listed on Zillow. Just keep in mind when you're looking at those rents that are advertised on HotPads or Zillow, those are obviously going to be just advertised. They're not actually showing you exactly what the property was rented for. So just be wary of that, but it just depends on your market and how many actually comps you actually find. And in most areas, like I said, there's a shortage of rental properties out there. So as long as the asking price is reasonable, you can assume that the landlord is going to get what they're advertising for online. Unless, of course, it's been listed for many months, then obviously they might be asking for more one that the market will bear. Let's say for your $300,000 house, you're able to rent it for $2,400. At least that's what you estimate it to be. And your estimated expenses are going to be about $1,900 a month. So that means you're going to get cash flow about $500 per month, or about $6,000 per year. Compare that to your down payment of $75,000, which again is 25% of your $300,000 purchase. Then your cash on cash return is going to be about 8%. However, a portion of your mortgage payment is going to pay down your principal, which is a way of building equity in your investment property. So after year one, you'll have paid off your principal of $3,320. So effectively, you have increase in equity of $3,320. Therefore, taking this into consideration, you're going to have your positive cash flow of $6,000 in your first year, plus your equity that you built by paying off your principal by $3,320. So your return on your investment, if you take in consideration these two factors, is going to be actually not 8%, but 12%. Obviously, there's tax advantages of owning an investment property, such as depreciation, but don't take it from me. I'm just a guy on YouTube. This is not financial or tax advice. Talk to your CPA. Just remember the number one rule is that you want to have positive cash flow, and at the very least, you want to be breaking even. But the number one goal is to have positive cash flow because after all, this is an investment property. Rule number 6 is do not buy a property in general that is fully updated already. It's best to buy an average house that needs an average amount of work. So don't buy a major fixer either. So the houses to definitely stay away from are those houses that need a major amount of updating throughout the house, including, but not limited to, major foundation work, for example. You want to look for a house that needs a minor amount of updates, such as maybe it needs paint or flooring, maybe it needs to be re-landscaped in the backyard or front yard. Minor things that you could do very quickly where you can pay $1 and get $2 or $3 back. Or in other words, pay $10,000 to update the house and have your house be worth $20,000 to $30,000 more after you're done with the work. You're also going to want to find very reliable and trustworthy handyman or a general contractor if the work needs to be permitted, that we're going to do a great job at a reasonable cost. Also, a side note, avoid the installation of carpet. I would actually advise you to install laminate flooring as opposed to carpet. Carpet tends to get very dirty. You have to replace it every few years, especially if a tenant who doesn't take very well care of it. It's going to cost you a lot of money and a lot of time if you buy carpet and install it there. Now, this is very important. Do not buy super expensive fit and finishes inside the house. So for example, do not buy a $9,000 sink thinking you're going to get a lot more in rent for your house. No one cares. Just buy something that's going to look nice, that's going to be reasonably priced, and you're going to get the same amount of rental income as you would if you're going to buy a $300 sink versus a $9,000 sink, for example. I would also recommend when you're looking for houses to buy, do not buy a house that's on a very busy street or a high crime area. On top of that, you don't want to buy a house that's going to be backing up to a commercial lot or apartment building, for example. Step number 7, once you find a property that's going to have positive cash flow, now is the time to make offers. And I'd recommend to not get emotionally invested in the properties, because chances are you're probably going to have to make more than one offer on properties. You're probably going to miss out on a few properties before you actually get an accepted offer. A very important thing here is to find a real estate agent who is good. And not good, find an agent who is actually excellent at what they do, who is going to make your life so much easier and is going to help you get your offer accepted using strategies that work well for them. And I would ask for, by word of mouth, ask your friends and colleagues for a referral of a great real estate agent, and then interview them. Ask them, what areas they work in, how long they've been a real estate agent, what tips and strategies they use to get their offers accepted, and then make sure that they actually are very good at communicating with you. So if you call them, make sure they call you back very soon. If they send you a text message, then make sure that they respond very quickly as well, because I can't tell you that a great real estate agent can really save you thousands of dollars, but a bad agent can really cost you thousands of dollars as well. I always tell people that the barriers of entry into real estate are very low, so it's really important to vet your real estate agent and make sure they're going to be doing a great job for you. And step number 8 is after you get your offer accepted. So congratulations, well done, you bought your first investment property. But now the real work starts, and that is to actually start your inspections. And I would recommend to rely on your local real estate agent and ask him or her what's common in your area. And I'm all for over-inspecting, doing more than you actually need to. And this is just to see that you actually know what you're getting yourself into. You can find and uncover those issues that you normally wouldn't be able to find out unless you had an inspection done, like a sewer inspection, home inspection, a chimney inspection, a roof inspection, etc. Now, after you get all your inspections done, then look over those reports with your real estate agent and try to figure out how much those issues are going to cost to repair. And this is your opportunity then to ask the seller for a price reduction, ask for them to do any repairs, or ask for a credit in lieu of repairs. And this is really the second round of negotiations that your real estate agent is going to be doing for you. So again, this is a great example of why you should choose a great real estate agent in your area. And I always tell my clients that as long as you send a reasonable request to the seller for repairs, usually you get a reasonable response. If you ask for everything that's found in the inspection reports, then obviously you're not going to get a favorable response. So just keep your request for repairs reasonable, usually get a reasonable response, and hopefully you'll get the seller to agree to most of the things you're asking for. Now, step number 9, and this is really not really a step, it's something just to be cognizant of, are closing costs. And closing costs are on top of your down payment. So again, your down payment's around 20 to 25% of the purchase price. Your closing costs are going to be around 1 to 2% of the purchase price. So for a $300,000 purchase, your closing costs are going to be in the range of $3,000 to $6,000. Now, here's a pro tip for you, and a lot of videos here don't cover this, is that you could ask the seller for a closing cost credit to decrease your out-of-pocket expenses when you're buying a property. So on that $300,000 property, if you have to offer $300,000, why not offer $305,000 and ask the seller for a $5,000 credit? So you're going to save $5,000 in your out-of-pocket expenses today, and your expense or your mortgage payment is only going to be about $10 to $20 more per month. And that's just a way to save some money today, to ask for a closing cost credit. And in the eyes of the seller, a $300,000 offer with no closing cost credit is exactly the same as a $305,000 offer with a $5,000 closing cost credit to the buyer. It's going to net the seller the same. However, it's going to save you a lot of money today. Now, step number 10 is to renovate right away. And so when you're in escrow for buying a house, which is usually in California around 30 days, you're going to want to set up all of your contractors, your handyman, all your repair guys during the escrow process. So when you close escrow on day 1, you can start renovating the property. The absolute worst thing to do is to close escrow and think, oh, okay, what should we do here? It's going to allow you to not get a tenant in there as soon as possible, and you're going to be spending money every month on a property that's vacant. So rule number 1, after you get your offer accepted, start thinking about what you want to do to the property. Get your workers lined up on day 1 so you can get a tenant in there as soon as possible so you can start earning some rental income. And a side note here too, when you're thinking about your budget for your renovation, just expect that your renovation budget is going to be more than you're told, and also it's going to take longer than anticipated. So just anticipate that this is probably going to happen. Step number 11 is to actually rent out your property. And the number one thing I'd recommend here is to take great, amazing photos. And I actually would recommend hiring a professional photographer to take the photos for you. And you can use these photos for years. It's going to cost you $200 or less to get those photos done. And it's going to look so much better online than if you're taking cell phone pictures like the bad ones that everyone sees online nowadays. And list your property on websites like Trulia, Zillow, Craigslist, maybe even Facebook. And if you get any inquiries, respond to them as soon as possible. If they want to see the property, try to set a scheduling appointment to see it as soon as possible as well. The worst thing to do is to take horrible pictures, respond late to potential renters, and you really do not want to do that. So let me touch very briefly on tenant screening. So you find a great investment property, you're going to want to find a great tenant. So run their credit, make sure they have a high FICO score, and also see that they've had a long and steady stream of income, that they've been at their employer for many years, for example. If you have a tenant who is going from job to job to job and house to house to house, that's obviously going to look bad. Just go use your judgment. Trust your gut when you're selecting a tenant for your property. And by the way, if you're a new investor, you may want to consider hiring a professional property manager if if you have limited time available to manage the property, and B, if you have a lot of cash flow already with a property, because professional property managers charge anywhere between 6 and 10% for a long-term rental. However, if it's an Airbnb, expect that fee of 6 to 10% to be about 3 times as much. Step number 12 is to start thinking about saving for your next down payment for your next investment property after you have your first one rented out already. You could set a goal of buying one investment property every 2 years, and that could be a single family home, or better yet, it could be a duplex. And so after 10 years, you'd have the 5 investment properties. And after 30 years, you would have all those properties paid off and having a great rental income coming in. And by the way, comment below, what would you do with all that rental income if you had 5 investment properties fully paid off? What would you do with it? Leave me a comment below. If this video is helpful, let me know by subscribing and hitting the like button. You also can follow me on Instagram. I'm Sacramento Realtor. I hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.